What is up, everyone? Welcome into another episode of Titans Tube. This is going to be our recap podcast over yesterday's preseason game between the Chicago Bears and the Tennessee Titans. And for those of you who may be new to the channel, we actually do a recap podcast after every regular season game. I know we haven't been doing it in the preseason so far just because it's preseason and there's no real reason to hit the panic button or overanalyze it. But we will be doing these recap podcasts after every regular season game, just kind of raw and uncut on our thoughts on the game. So make sure to tune in for that for the regular season. But let's get straight to the preseason game. Chicago Bears came to town and put a whooping on us, 19-7. If you were at the game, it was extremely hot, extremely sunny. I think we both came away sunburned, and it was just, it wasn't a very pleasant time to be a Titans fan at the game. Yeah. So we're going to give our quick thoughts on this. There's, I know it is just preseason. We will say that a lot, but no reason to panic or overanalyze everything right now. But let's get right into it. Justin, let's start with the offense. Give me your take on the Titans' offense yesterday.
Well, if I'm gonna be the average Facebook commenter, I'm probably gonna give up on the season and sell all the season tickets I have because this offense is a dumpster fire. Why even play out the regular season?
Wow.
But no, we're not those kind of fans. But yeah, let's talking about the offense here. Obviously, it wasn't what we wanted, what we were hoping to see, especially coming off the strong first half that we had against the Carolina Panthers only a week ago. So let's see. I guess I'll just go ahead and start with Marcus Mariota. He had his moments. He had his good throws, but we saw some uncharacteristic overthrows. It looks like he was just sailing passes out of bounds. Particularly, I specifically remember numerous passes to Tajay Sharp that just went over his head, or maybe it was Tajay's fault. Maybe he wasn't on the same page as some of his receivers. But the offense, the passing game wasn't clicking that we had been, accustomed to seeing. Mariota, luckily, of course, we came out of the game healthy. He did get sacked twice here, what I'm seeing, on the stat sheet, 4 times total as a team. So that does kind of reflect on the offensive line. We saw them struggle against the Jets in week 1. We saw them improve against the Panthers in week 2, but then they kind of regressed again, not only in the pass protection, but in the running game as well. We got to see a little bit of Demarco Murray. He had 6 carries for 16 yards, so not a good average. He actually had the same average of 2.7 yards per carry as Derrick Henry. Not the bruising up front, tough, rugged offensive line that we're accustomed to seeing that we saw last year in the preseason. The offensive line looked really good. So I don't know if this is a regression that we're seeing or why. The same 5 guys are playing up front. Maybe they might just be cruising. It's the preseason.
Maybe they stayed up late watching the fight the night before. I don't know. But I will say, the offensive line looked shaky. Lewan had a few, I was going to say uncharacteristic penalties, no, but I feel like he had kind of cleaned it up at the end of last year. And then obviously something you didn't mention, the fight. Quentin Spain getting ejected from the game. What are your thoughts on that?
He took a page out of Lawan's, playbook, getting ejected like that, which is... you hate to see that. You can't. We saw Lawan, get ejected last year at the start of the Packers game. Luckily, we got through that just fine. But Quentin Spain going out, getting ejected, it's not a good look. I know Malarkey had to have been pissed about that. So I'm not sure. I didn't see the play. I did see the replay. I don't think it was warranted to be ejected for something like that. I thought you had to get at least 2 personal foul penalties to be ejected from a game.
I think that is the rule officially, but Ed Hockley was being a little stickler yesterday.
He was, yeah. The officiating crew, by the way, they went back on a lot of calls then, like that safety. We'll get to that later. Yeah. That they called a touchback, and they're like, oh, wait, this is supposed to be a safety. So I don't know. The officiating crew, was just as inconsistent as the Titans themselves were.
Back to Mariota, because you mentioned that he had a kind of an off day. I heard a lot of people say on the radio shows on the way home from the game, he looked very mediocre, just kind of looked off, wasn't really stepping into throws. Mm-hmm. How much do you think that... I'm seeing some people question his footwork and kind of how he's getting maybe possibly a little skittish in the pocket from that injury he dealt with the past from last year, and then he was also injured the year before, but how that's kind of affecting him mentally to where if the pocket starts to collapse, he doesn't really want to step up to actually, get behind those throws to make more accurate throws because he's worried about getting injured. Do you think that affected his play at all yesterday?
I think that could be a factor, but I don't know. As when he's moving around and when he's, I guess, scrambling or running with the football, he looks just as fast and just as comfortable as he did to me. But yeah, I do see what you're saying. When the pocket is closing around him and there's really nowhere for him to go with the football, he can look a little panicked, a little skittish. I know on a few plays he did do like a hesitating pump fake and wasn't sure exactly where to go with the football, or if he should make a throw. A few double clutches. So that the injury, I don't know if that has to do with him being skittish or not in the pocket when it starts collapsing, and if the injury is on his mind. Because I feel like Mariota is a guy that can mentally be present and put an injury like that in the past behind him and it not even affect him, but it very well could. I don't know what do you think?
What do you think? What is there any good things you saw or people who stood out? Maybe like in the receiving core, we haven't really mentioned them. We were still without Davis this game. We're still without Decker. Rashard Matthews was back.
Yeah, you know what? I thought the receivers actually played well. Tajay Sharp was back. He only had one catch for 10 yards, and whether he ran the wrong route or wasn't on the same page with Mariota, causing him to throw multiple, as I said earlier, sailing a few balls out of bounds that were just completely uncatchable. I thought the receivers as a whole played well. It's good to see Matthews coming back. He made a few plays. He had 3 catches, 54 yards. He's looking like the reliable, consistent receiver that he was for us last year. Taywan Taylor had that incredible play on 3rd and 31, converting that, which is, I don't even know what the odds are, but it's just about impossible to convert a 3rd and 31, unless you're Aaron Rodgers, throwing Hail Marys. So he's looking just as good. Taywan Taylor, still loving what I'm seeing from him. Trey McBride showed up on the stat sheet again, 2 catches, 28 yards. We saw some good plays by, a little more unknowns, Darius Jennings, Jonathan Krause, kind of late in the game. So from just a strictly... garbage time too. But as a whole, from just looking at the receivers, the receiving core, and what we don't have and still have to look forward to in Davis and Decker, I think as a group they played well. It was just a matter of Mariota having some inaccurate throws, perhaps not being on the same page, like I've said a few times. But I don't know. I liked what I saw out of the receivers as a whole.
Everyone seemed a little off. I think that's, it's obvious pretty to anyone who's watching the game. Everyone just seemed a little off, chemistry-wise, and just, Mariota was double clutching, missing some easy throws. The offensive line wasn't playing up to par.
Just the whole timing.
Yeah, the whole timing, and I think, we went scoreless through 3 quarters, which is terrible, especially with, the high. We're supposed to be a little more revamped this year with weapons. I know a few of them were injured, but still, we're playing against a team that's kind of in a rebuild mode. I know their defense is a little underrated, but I was hoping to see a few more points out of our offense. And
3 quarters,
I think Malarkey was too, because he was pretty upset and left him in until they finally got that touchdown. But
we all were a little shocked to see 0 points on the board after the first string. Played through 3 quarters, but I do want to make this point because I know you had said something about this earlier at the game, but the game against Carolina, that looked like the Titans that took the field against the Packers last year. The Titans that took the field against the Bears today looked like the Titans that played the Jaguars the second time, or perhaps the Colts in both games. They looked like the divisional opponent Titans, so to speak, I guess. We just didn't look like the team that we know that we can be, and they were, just sloppy in all phases. Nothing was coming together, and it was shocking to see.
Especially since you mentioned that we had come out against Carolina and looked great. Putting up, I don't know what the first team offense put up, but as a whole we put up
points about in the first half.
And this time we went 3 quarters scoreless. That can just not happen once we get to the regular season. But it is preseason. No reason to hit the panic button. Anything else you got left on the offense?
No reason to renounce your fandom. I don't know. I'll ask you this: do you think the O-line, for whatever reason, might be regressing in any way, or is that just a preseason thing? Because once again, our running game in all 3 games, actually, we're not putting up good averages in yards per rush in any of the games yet. And then pass protection was a little better against Carolina, but it was pretty bad, really bad against the Jets, and then pretty bad again yesterday.
True. One thing I hate seeing is Mariota getting sacked in the preseason. Come on, guys. Come on, Lawan and Conklin. I know Conklin gave up a sack yesterday. Yeah. Lawan had a few costly penalties. Yeah, it just looks like they're out of sync. I kind of think that is a little bit of preseason for you. Mm-hmm. I don't want to throw too many excuses out there like, oh yeah, maybe they did stay up late the night before watching the fight or something, and we're just kind of a little out of sync, just weren't really prepared for it. It was a really hot day in Tennessee, and they were kind of looked like they were coasting, just a little out of sync. I don't know. I don't think they've regressed. I still think we have one of the most talented offensive lines in the league, sure. And I hope to see them turn it around before the time the season comes. I think everyone's really scared to get injured out there, which, I am too. I don't blame. Yeah, even Cameron Meredith.
And their long snapper too.
And their long snapper. Both guys.
Two of the Bears.
Yeah, sorry Bears. That's no one wants to see that in the preseason, and I gotta think that's kind of in the back of their heads. I know you want to give it your all, but guys like Lawan and Conklin, they're solidified starters and longtime players. What if you go down with an ACL injury or something in the preseason? I don't know if I don't want to make, like I said, I don't want to make excuses for him, but something just isn't there so far in the preseason. Very, very inconsistent. So.
We'll see. Well, all that matters is how we look against Oakland, and then, if we can get it together by then, that's really all that counts. Everyone will forget about these games.
Very true. Very true. Okay.
All right. So, that's thoughts on offense. So let's move to the defensive side of the ball, which in some aspects was less... were more discouraging, I should say, than what we saw on the offensive side.
You're right. So Chicago, obviously has a little bit of a quarterback situation. They paid Mike Glennon in the offseason all that money and then traded up to draft Mitchell Trubisky. Both of those guys had an incredible day. I think they put up 12 points against our first team defense, which I know 2 of those were the safety coming on the block punt. But still, their first drive, their first touchdown, they just marched right down the field after Brett Kern and pinned them deep. Yeah. They had to go 95-plus yards to score. We just can't. If our defense wants to take that next step to become an elite defense, we can't be giving up 95-plus yard touchdown drives to Mike Glennon and the Bears.
We couldn't get off the field on third downs was the problem. They converted... several third downs and some third and longs.
Which was also... which reminded me a really bad point, which brought up some Titans teams of old for our offense, was we were only 3 of 12 on converting third downs, which that reminds me of the Titans teams of the past few years where we just couldn't get it done against any kind of opponent. But on defense, I really want to focus on one thing because I think it was a main point, especially when the first teamers were going against each other, and that is Adoree Jackson, or Adoree Jackson. What do you say?
Adore.
You say Adoree, I say Adoree. Anyways, he got his first start opposite Logan Ryan, and he got torched. Yeah. Let's be honest. He got burned time and time again by who else but Kendall Wright, who was having a heyday out there against him. A lot of, especially on a few critical third downs, I feel like everyone knew they were going to go to Kendall Wright against Adoree, and they went to him.
Yeah.
I don't...
Sorry.
No.
Keep going.
Okay. All I'm saying is don't hit the panic button on this guy. I don't know how many tweets or posts or comments I saw after being like, what a busted pick, what a trash player. He can't cover outside. He can't cover the slot. He can't cover anyone. Just chill out, yo. It was his first start. He's a rookie. And a lot of those plays, I thought he was he was right there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was going to bring that up, too.
He was right there. It's just, I think he's learning the game. He's learning the speed of the game. That's what preseason games are for. Give him some time to adjust to the speed of the game. And honestly, Kendall Wright is a great receiver. I know he didn't work out in Tennessee the past few years, but his talent is those quick, shifty inside, out moves or breaks to where he can create that space and those short routes against cornerbacks, which is exactly what he was doing to Adoree Jackson. Let's not forget he had a 1,000-yard year with the Titans, and I thought he could have easily continued that. We just couldn't really figure out a way to utilize him, and then injuries took over. So Adoree was going against a top quality receiver. I don't know if that's an unpopular opinion or not when it comes to Kendall Wright, but I think he's good. I think that would be a really tough coverage for a rookie. He ended up having the mental mistake with fielding the punt within the 5-yard line, which once again He's a rookie. He's going to learn from that. I'm sure the coaches got onto him for that. That's just a little bit more awareness in the game, where you're at and what you need. But in terms of his defensive coverage, I don't think there's any reason to panic. Don't be fickle. Don't be fickle, okay? Give him some time to turn it around. We have some depth at that position now, which we didn't have last year. Logan Ryan, LaShawn Sims, Bryce McCain. People have kind of been on the team for a few years. I know Sims is still young, but we've seen flashes of potential there. So we have some time to kind of bring Adoree along. Do not consider him a bust yet. Give him some time. I liked how he stayed in the game. I like how he responded. Yeah. I know he got the crucial... He had mistakes. There's no way around it. He got burned several times. And you know what? It's going to happen again. It's going to happen multiple times again to all of our cornerbacks. I mean, we saw Logan Ryan have a bad game against the Jets, and people were like, oh, he sucks. And he came back, turned it around. Let's see how Adoree responds, especially in the regular season when he's going up, first game, he's going up the likes of Michael Crabtree, going up against the likes of Michael Crabtree and, Amari Cooper. So he's going to, you play in the NFL, you're playing superstars almost every week. We're going to see what he's made of, but give him some time to grow, okay?
Yeah, and it's not like he was, you kind of touched on this, he was like out of position or just a blown assignment or something. A lot of times he was with the receiver. It's just he couldn't make the play. Mike Glennon was throwing some really good passes, I know. Got to give credit to the Bears as well. And I think our first defensive stop, where we forced him to punt for the first time, didn't he come up with the stop? Either it was a tackle or a broken up pass.
I believe
third down.
He did, because I actually tweeted about it after he had gotten burned on several times on the drive before to give him the touchdown. He came back, had that third down stop. I liked how he responded there. So he wasn't giving up. He didn't just fall off the board. The guy was fighting out there, okay? And give him some credit.
And knowing Adoree Jackson, nobody is going to be harder on him than himself. And he's got a good head on his shoulders. I know he's going to work on his craft to make himself a better player. He cares about football. He cares about this team. I trust Adoree Jackson still. I'm not going to hit the reset button wishing that we didn't pick.
No, and another thing that plays into this that kind of has a compounding effect on our secondary coverage is our pass rush, which we did not generate any of yesterday, whether that was the Bears' game plan to take that away. We only got one sack from Wesley Woodyard, who I want to point out did have a good game. He's kind of been really quiet this offseason, but the guy showed that he can still have it. He was in on a good amount of run stops. Yeah. He got the one sack. I liked what I saw from him. Even though he's getting a little old and rusty, he can still play. So I think that was a bright spot to see him have a good day. But only one sack, which if you're given any quarterback in the league, I don't care if it's Mike Glennon or Tom Brady, if you're giving them enough time, a receiver is going to get open. Yeah. So that just makes it harder on our secondary right there.
And with the secondary we have, it's super important to get consistent pass rush because that's going to make their lives a whole lot easier. It's going to make the pass defense look not as bad. Yeah. Wish we could see more pass rush. I'm sure we'll see a lot more Jarrell Casey in the regular season. A lot of our starters will probably amp it up once the regular season gets going.
Sure. But even then, I'm being critical on them all. If you take away the safety, our starting first team defense only gave up 10 points in a half. I think I'll take that as of now, based on how the potential our offense has to put up points this year. If we can hold I don't want to give up any points. I want to shut every team out, but I'm not going to hit the panic button again when it comes to our defense. I think there's room for improvement, but my main point is don't hit the panic button on Adoree. He's fine.
Did it have to be a 96-yard opening drive touchdown? I mean, come on. The same thing happened against the Jets where they had an opening drive touchdown. True. Well, wish we could start out faster. Kind of like we did against Carolina, but hey, we'll see. We got the Chiefs coming up really quickly, so gotta turn it around really quick. What is it, like a 4-day break before we go to Kansas City? But yeah.
Okay, let's move on to any last points of the game. I did have one here. I know I've heard a lot of people talk about the game plan for the game, and I kind of think this plays into the running game. It was Demarco Murray's first game back. Obviously, he didn't look too great with that, average yards per rush average, but I think the game plan was to try and kind of pound him, feed him the rock early no matter what, just to get him a few reps, get him hit a few times, get him tackled, just kind of get him back used to playing the game of football, regardless of how that kind of fit into the larger scheme of let's try to win this game. That's what preseason's for. So I kind of think that kind of slowed the offense down a little bit and almost set the pace.
And I think Murray looked looked good himself. I just didn't think there was a lot of room for him to go, a lot of room to run. The offense wasn't, or the line wasn't opening up big holes for him to run through. But I mean, you saw the quickness, you saw the shiftiness right as he got the handoff. It was just we just weren't giving him much space. But yeah, I think the game plan for sure was just to throw or hand off the ball to him several times just to get him, accustomed to the game.
Going into a regular season game, if he had been stuffed a few times, I think we would have changed it up a little bit, maybe gone to a pass a few times earlier than we did yesterday. But I think it really was, the plan was just to, hey, let's play Demarco, I don't know how much you play, that half a quarter or a quarter, two series, and let's try to feed him as much as possible just to kind of get him back in that flow. So, that was it. We haven't mentioned any kind of special teams yet. We gave up our backup long snapper, I don't even know his name, missed the block for the block punt.
So that was his.
It was his miss, and apparently it was also a little bit of a bad snap, and then he missed the block. Just compounding effect to let Brett Kern's punt get blocked, and then
underrated position, the long snapper.
The long snapper. Whoever thought that the long snapper would be costing us points, but it happened.
But it does happen. Combo Brinkley.
Yeah, and then Adoree Jackson in the punt return game had that critical mistake, fielding it within the 5. Of course, driving 95-plus yards didn't affect the Bears at all yesterday.
Yeah.
But I do want to give a shout-out to Brett Kern, and I know you feel the same way, because the dude was balling yesterday when he got a chance to actually kick the ball.
Right.
Pinned them deep twice. Just beautiful punts.
I think it was, wasn't it more than
It might have been more than twice. I know a few times going the opposite of the way we were facing, pinned them deep,
just giving them
within
no
the 5
chance
once,
at a
and then
return.
within the 7 or 8 the other time. Yeah, great
It was
play
great.
out of the punter. Hopefully we won't have to utilize that talent a lot this year.
Yeah, because we don't want to punt too much. Don't want to see a whole lot of you, Kern, but we still love you. Caleb, should we be worried about Ryan Succop? We've seen 2 field goals that he's missed within 50. I know at least 50 yards. That he's missed, and last year he was perfect from within the 50-yard range. He also clanked an extra points, I think, off the uprights. Still managed to go in. So is his accuracy kind of waning a little bit? What's going on with Ryan?
He did have a really bad miss yesterday, where he didn't just miss the goalpost; he missed the whole net.
Yeah,
it went into the stands. Which I know last year we talked about this in our fantasy episode. He didn't kick a lot of field goals, but when he did, he was one of the most accurate kickers in the league. Mm-hmm. So that it was a little shocking to see. Once again, I don't think it's anything you need to panic about. If we had spent a second-round draft pick on him and he was missing every other kick, Tampa Bay, then we might need to get rid of him. But he's been a pillar of consistency in his craft since he's been on the team, since we acquired him from Kansas City. So a few misses here and there in the preseason, something to worry about? Nah. Yeah. Now it's come,
Oakland, and he misses a 30-yard field goal.
If he starts missing a few come the regular season, week in and week out, I think it might be time to look elsewhere. But
90% of being a kicker is mental, so maybe
it really is.
Got to get his head on straight here.
So I don't think it's anything to worry about. It's preseason. Honestly, there's not a whole lot to worry about.
Yeah, he's getting all of his misses out of the way in the preseason.
I think there's things you take from this game, and it was bad, just like the Jets game, and then comparing it to the Carolina game, how inconsistent the team's been. But the offense, this was their first game to really actually give them a chance to get into a flow. They looked good against Carolina. They did not look good against the Bears or the Jets. It's just there's been a lot of inconsistency in the preseason. But I think they'll get it together. Give them a few weeks off. Come into Oakland, I think their mentality will be a little different come the regular season, especially. We got a home opener against one of the top teams in AFC last year. I think they're going to come ready to play. Okay. And if they don't, then we can start, worrying about what's wrong, what's happened to this team. If the O-line's still struggling, then we need to find out what's the problem. But here and there, they haven't,
Because Derek Carr is in a different class from Mike Glennon and Mitch Trubisky, and the receivers are in a different class as well. So if Glennon and Trubisky can do what they do, I guess more Glennon, because Trubisky didn't play that much against our first team, I don't think. Then it's we'll I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm trying to say, but it could be a little bit concerning seeing what they did, and then with Derek Carr and one of the best offenses in the NFL, especially passing games. We'll have to see how we measure up against them for sure before we make any true claims or statements about this defense.
Yeah. So take the goods from this game, take the bads from this game, and don't freak out over them. But maybe keep them in the back of your mind, and this stuff starts reoccurring or coming up during the regular season. Then maybe start looking back at where that seed was planted that started growing into a tree of doom. That was a crazy analogy.
Yeah.
But as of now, I don't think there's anything to get your panties in a wad about, people.
Yeah, and you should probably not wear panties if you're watching this channel, and if you're a guy, maybe boxer briefs in a wad.
Yeah. But that's about all I got for that. I don't want to spend too much time on a preseason game.
We've already spent more time, I think.
You got any? Yeah, you got any last pointers here or last things that stuck out to you?
I'm not sure. I mean, that play call that we gave the ball to Derrick Henry, then he tried to flip it or pitch it to Taywan Taylor. I mean, that seems like a play that if you're going to run it, you got to be 100% sure what you're doing. Like, the players ran into each other. It was like a half pitch, half handoff. I don't know. I'd hate to point out one play and be like, what are we doing? What is this offense? What's this play calling, bro?
That's just what you did.
Yeah, and I did. And that's just, I don't know. So these gadgety things, I mean, just... I would not mind every play just to spread out the receivers all across the line and just let Mariota pick his poison, because we have the talent to do that. But
we were a little short-handed yesterday. I think come Oakland we'll be fully healthy. I'm expecting to see Corey Davis out there week 1. Honestly, I hope he doesn't play this week. I just go ahead and give him some extra rest. I know he hasn't had any kind of NFL exposure yet in real game situations, but I would rather be safe than sorry with him and Decker. Let's go ahead and save him up for the regular season malarkey. Okay, don't rush him back.
Maybe bring him in to maybe on some running plays, give him some run blocking plays just to kind of get some contact in, but don't throw like a 70-yard Hail Mary to him where he has to really use his strength and his hammy. Don't want to restretch that out, obviously.
Yeah, definitely not. But let's get ready for week 1. I know we got one more preseason game where all the bubble players, all their bubbles can get popped, and their NFL dreams of becoming a star are smashed and dashed against the rocks.
And then they go home and get everyday jobs like you and me.
Just like us. Probably start their own channel about their favorite NFL team or something. Yeah, I don't know.
It better be the Titans.
It better be the Titans. Anyways, thanks for watching
or
listening to our podcast. And that's a recap of the preseason game. I don't think we'll do one after the next game, but this is going to be a weekly segment come the regular season where we plan to answer, fan questions about the game, give you more kind of in-depth analysis about, players, offense, defense, special teams, coaching, game plan, all of that. So be looking forward to that. Anyways, you guys just have a good one.
Stay chill. Stay cool.
Stay cool, y'all.
Yeah.
Be hip. Don't freak out. No reason to have concern yet.
No, not at all.
None.
Stay in school.
Zip. Zero.
Don't do drugs.
Do drugs.
Listen to your elders.
Don't listen to your elders.
But listen to...
Drink orange juice.
Yeah.
With pulp.
Ooh.
Are you a pulp guy or no pulp guy?
Yeah, no, I am a pulp guy. I've acquired a taste for the pulp as I've aged.
Pulp for the win!
Pulp Fiction.